Hey, welcome to the custom closet that I made for my daughter. She got a house and had an extra bedroom next to the master bedroom, and I said, no problem, we'll bust a hole in the wall and make a walk-in closet for you. In this video, we're gonna show you guys how to do all that, do wallpaper, install the engineered hardwood floor. This was awesome. Plus how to make all of this custom shelving. This stuff comes straight off the shelf at the local building store. It's very simple. All you need is a skill saw and an air nailer. I'm telling you right now, if you're a DIYer, this is the kind of project that you can whip together in just a few days and you can transform a space and increase the value of your home. All right? So in today's video, I'm gonna be showing you how to install this brand new engineered hardwood floor. This is gorgeous. It's hand scraped. It's a European hardwood. Also showing you how to finish it off with the area vent system. So let's just jump right into the whole installation thing without any YouTube fluff. Today's video is all about the installation. So you're gonna need a couple of tools. One of them is going to be a floor nailer, okay? Now this is basically a hardwood nailing machine. This particular material isn't quite 3/4, which is standard for hardwood, but that's fine. It's actually fluctuates between 5/8 and 3/4 installs, so it works for no matter what situation you're dealing with. Comes with the hammer. You can rent that at your local hardware store. We get them at Home Depot. It's like 30 bucks for the whole day, which is more than enough time to get an installation done on a floor like this. The other thing you're gonna need is a brad nailer. This one shoots an 18 gauge 2-inch brad now. Really, we're only using this at the beginning and at the other end of the floor to do surface nailing underneath where the baseboards are going to be installed, okay? The only other thing you're going to need, possibly a red bar, just to help to manipulate and maneuver and put some pressure to close joints. It's nice to have handy, and that's $5, and everybody should own a red bar. No excuse. The only other thing you're going to need is a level. This is my trick for starting off the floor installation. What I do is I cut my first few pieces for the full length of the room, and then I lay them in position, and I use the level over where the joints are, and I just help make sure that all my gaps are closed before I do my surface nailing. Okay, now I'm in a great position. I can hook up my compressor. Of course, that's the other tool you're gonna need if you're gonna use air tools. And we're just going to surface nail every 3 to 4 inches. All along the whole starter strip. The idea behind this is that should be enough resistance when we're nailing on the next row of the boards to keep everything from shifting around. Okay, so now we got the first row done. We're just going to set this aside for later in the day because all we need is this beast. Now, so when you go and rent your machine, they're going to sell you nails or staples to go with it. I've had this question a lot, if I prefer the nails or the staples. And I am a staple fan. I love the fact that it's twice the fastener in the same location. Just seems to hold everything together right and tight. Okay, here we go. And, you know, just be smart. Don't load these things with your power hooked up. Here we go. Now we got air on that tool. The only other thing you got to know is keep your area clean. Clean it, then clean it, then clean it again. And clean as you go. Now, a lot of this installation is very similar to traditional hardwood. But because it's an engineered wood, you actually get to treat this like a floating floor in a lot of regards. New construction, our OSB subflooring is glued and screwed to the floor joist. We don't have the same kind of problems we used to using dimensional lumber where the floors are all wavy. So we can just go ahead and install this the way that it's aesthetically pleasing. So although we're not going in the same direction, contrary to the floor joists in this house, we're not concerned about it. This is going to stand the test of time. Now, to install, you simply line it up and you take your hammer. Okay, the rubber mallet is used for impact here to create the impact power that you need to drive the staple, but the backside has got this slope. And what that does is it guarantees that the point of impact is beneath the tongue. And you're never going to risk damaging the wood. So, there we go. Get that in place. Make sure you leave your gap all around the perimeter of the room. A real healthy gap. is about a 1/2 inch. And if your drywall is installed correctly, that's basically the distance of the drywall to the framing behind it. That makes life real simple. Bam. You want to install a staple every 12 to 16 inches. Try to be mindful if you're over a joint where there's a bunch of screws. You can even take a pencil and mark them in advance. This is not a race. Make sure your plate is set firmly on the ground. Okay, you don't want to have it rocking forward or lifting up. Now, you'll notice it doesn't take a lot of strength to use that tool. Anybody can install their own engineered hardwood. The only other thing you're going to need is some sort of a chop saw. It could be 10 or 12 inch, just so that you can cut the ends clean. And it's just as simple as measuring and cutting. I'm going to have my son Matthew come in here, and he's going to finish off this room. There are two things we're going to show. One is we're going to have to move the heat duct from one location to a little further down the floor. So we're going to do that on camera, just because that's really great knowledge to have. We have engineered floor joists, and if you've never had to open a floor and do a repair in a situation like that, this video is going to cover that as well. And the reason we're moving is because this is going to be a walk-in closet. Now, I know, crazy, huge space. We've customized it. We've added really great lighting, and we're going to build our own custom cabinets for this place. And that video is coming up soon. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, then hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, choose every time so that when that video comes out, you're going to get notified and you'll be able to see it. This is going to be spectacular. Let's talk about a product real quick. What we're installing upstairs, which is Matt doing all that thumping around, is this stuff right here. Engineered hardwood, okay? Benefits of this over regular hardwood. It's still hardwood, but because it's engineered, it's built on layers, okay? These layers of different plywood is what gives it the strength and keeps it from warping. So we all know, if you've worked with hardwood before, regular hardwood, you have to pay a real premium price to get wood that isn't warped. With engineered hardwood, you don't have that waste, so it keeps the cost down. It also has a nice little kerf line in the bottom there, which makes it a little bit more flexible for installing in older homes, all right? Which is brilliant. I'm loving this product. It has a really thick wear layer on top. A lot of the hardwoods that are out there, there's only enough room in there to do one sanding. If you're lucky in this situation, you can be confident you can do 1 or 2 refinishings. If you want to change your color or your stain over time, no problem at all. And that is an awesome benefit. Well, Matt did a great job. He got us almost all the way there. We're down the last couple rows. And like I mentioned, I've got to move this air vent back to a new location. So we're just going to use a combination of drilling a couple of holes, run the skill saw, jigsaw to finish off. We'll cut the vent back, reinstate it, patch the hole, boom. Then we'll get into the rest of the flooring. But I'm going to show you a brand new floor grate system from Area Vent. We're going to introduce this with the hardwood here, which is going to be amazing. I used this before on my vinyl video in my kitchen. If you haven't seen that video and you're interested about vinyl flooring, then click the card that appears and that will lead you to that one. But whoa, let's try not to be on hammer drill. Here we go. We're going to finish moving this because in our design for this walk-in closet, we have a dresser underneath this window that comes out to 64 inches in total. So that runs us down to here. We're going to bring this over so it's inside the closed panel. This is probably going to be 2 separate rods, and then we can put a little deflector on the floor to draw the heat out into the room. There we go. And because we're flying a little blind here, we don't want to plunge everything too deep. We'll set the saw blades so we're cutting the thickness plus an oomph. There we are. And I'm going to be using that. All right. Now, it's not always that easy to just open a floor and move a vent, but I happen to already be aware that there's a big mechanical wall, downstairs right in this location. We opened up the floor earlier in the project to bring some electrical run up. So we already knew where all this ductwork was heading and what our allowances were. So I kind of had a little bit of insider knowledge. If you're not sure what's going on, just reach down, okay? Generally it's coming from one direction or the other. And then you can always open the floor and find out if it'll work for you. If not, buy a smaller dresser. Here we go. Whew. They sure used a lot of nails, eh? Nice. Okay. Here we go. Oh, we got lucky. There's only one screw. Yes. Okay. Right to there. So for everybody who hasn't seen this before, this is a new evolution in floor heating system. You open up the damper, it sits inside the existing grill. Yay! All right, so the area vent system has three components. You have the body that goes into the floor. Then you have this extension piece here. And that needs to be set at a certain height, equal to the thickness of the flooring. All right, well, actually it's easier to see this way. Okay, there we go. And then it has this interior trough here. Now, the idea here is to cut a piece of the hardwood that fills this gap as well. So what you end up having is this beautiful little ridge all the way around that actually supplies the heat to the room. All right, and the way that we set the height to be just perfect, so I use a little bit of my leftover flooring. This stuff here that we've got supplied, it's the same stuff we use in the kitchen and the basin, kitchenette in the basement. It scores and snaps really simple, so it's really great to work with. Makes great shims. All right, there we go. Now that that's all done, we are going to just finish cutting the rest of this in after I clean up. Time to get out the vacuum, because what's our number one rule? Clean, clean, and clean, right? Here we go. All right, so as per request, I'm gonna install the last piece just so everybody knows how it's done. Now, we're cutting measuring on a table saw, so if you don't have one of those, I'd suggest go out and rent one, because there's just no way to do this kind of finished quality unless you have a good quality table saw. All right, now, we really only have a couple of options for putting this in place. One of them is, when the baseboards are gone, you have these screws, and that's where the stud is. So that helps. Push this gap closed first, and then you can go like this. All right. And if that's not gonna work for you, now my son invented this technique, so stay with me, because that boy is always looking for better ways to do something. He just throws a square in here and he pries against the whole width of the wall. That makes it about as tight as it can possibly get. And it actually reduces the risk of breaking up the edges. Once you've got that in place, and we're surface nailing. Now we put in the body for the area vent. Oh, let's get that in there. Sometimes when you're this precise, you can run into issues. There we go. Wow. And the last finishing touch, drop this on, and then it slide locks. There we go. That's how you finish the flooring. The only thing you have to do now is just take the baseboards, clean the nails out, reinstall the baseboards, caulking line, and you are good to go. That is basically one full day's work. Let's just be on it. You can do a little faster if you got some experience, someone who can help you. But if you're on your own, you can remove a carpet and install a product like this in one day all by yourself. In this video, we are going to be teaching you guys how to hang wallpaper. Now, generally on our channel, we are here to help all kinds of homeowners do all kinds of projects, whether it's renovation or remodeling or decorating. And so we're tackling this video because I think wallpaper is going to make a resurgence. I might be wrong, but there are tons and tons of really awesome prints out there that'll give you great texture in your room. Now, in this particular project, we're going to be building a custom walk-in closet dressing room. Okay, so the idea here is there's only a couple of exposed walls. There's going to be a mirror on this side, but the wallpaper is going to be in behind all of the custom shelving and closet hanging areas. And I think it's going to add a really cool dimension to the project, especially once we get all the pot lights in here and dialed in onto those cabinets. So we're going to just jump right in on the other corner, and I'm going to show you how to get started. We're going to show you tips and tricks, how to make it easy, because wallpapering today is made really easy. Gone are the days where you have the big bucket of water and you got to soak your wallpaper to activate the glue. Now it is just so much easier to do. I'm going to show you all those tips and tricks so that you can feel comfortable doing this at home and dress up any room in your house. So wallpapering nowadays isn't really as simple as just having adhesive, the right cutting measuring tools, and the right plan for application. So the old days, they used to have the adhesive on the paper itself. And you cut the length, and then you roll it up, and then you dip it in water, and you try to get it in there for the right amount of time, and then you'd pull it out, dripping water and glue everywhere, just slap it on the wall. It was really quite a mess. Now, one of the changes that they've made in the industry is generally all this stuff now, you put the adhesive on the wall, and then you apply the paper. And the truth is that makes the application so much easier. If you've ever tried this before and you were disillusioned because of the paper had the glue on it, try it this way and you're going to notice a difference. So basically you get this white pasty glue. Okay, and I've set it up in my paint roller tray, and I've just got a little 3/8 nap on there. And we're going to just paint the wall with adhesive, right? We're not trying to be cheap with this either, because this is one of these situations where less is more is not the case. All right, you're going to get about the width of a roller for every application. Load it up. The secret is, if you have lots of adhesive on the wall, it's a lot easier to work with the paper and to be able to move it around. All right. Okay, we're just going to go through a little bit wider here. Now, there we go. Now right at the very top, I didn't have any adhesive because I'm using a roller. So for that, I got a 3-inch brush, and I'm just gonna slap and drag, okay? Try to leave as much of that adhesive as I can up there. Don't worry about getting it on the ceiling or other walls. It's water-based, and we have a sponge and a pail here, so that when we're done with our paper, we can go back and just clean off any of the extra residue. Now, if you're new to this channel, you might not have seen one of these before, but if you're not new to the channel, you know I love my laser lines. Okay, so the idea here is in a lot of the instruction manuals out there, they'll tell you to get a big long ruler and a pencil and draw a line on the wall. But if you have a laser line, you slap one up there, put your roll into the corner, laser line off the edge, bam, there's your line. Resist the temptation to start in the corner because it's never going to be straight. I'll show you that right here. I'm in the corner at the bottom, I'm in the corner at the top, but look how much the wall is bowed. And this is the danger. If you start using the edge of the wall here as your guide, you're in trouble. So we're just going to throw a laser line right here. Now, if you're concerned about this, because you're going to do the whole room, then you move your laser line in about an inch or so. Start off this line and then come around the corner. All right. For us, we're actually installing different shelving units here. I'm not concerned about the gap, so I'm going to make my life simple. Go right off the edge. Okay, now we're ready to hang. So we'll just go over the tools real quick. So we need one of these little plastic things. This is just a flattener. When you go in to buy your wallpaper, there's a whole section of tools and equipment. You need a bucket of adhesive, and it's right there. It's wallpaper adhesive. You're gonna want to get one of these little sponge things. This is great for smoothing out all the bubbles, and then it won't wrinkle the paper. You're gonna need a straight edge like this, because when you're cutting wallpaper, you don't want to do it freehand. You always want to have a metal edge holding the paper against the wall, because wet paper likes to tear really nasty like. And then you need a straight little knife like this. I'm not using my HB knife today like normal. This is a mini thin Olfa. It's really sharp and really lightweight, and it's really good for getting in all the nooks and crannies and cutting things perfect. Now, all we do is get up on our ladder here, And you'll see I can drive this paper anywhere I want to go. Now there's my laser line right there, right? I'm going to try to manipulate this design for that gold line to be at the ceiling. Okay, and there's my laser line. Now, there we are, right there. So what I want to do now is come down here a couple of feet. Okay, hold this off and stretch this into the line. Okay, so now there's my edge. Okay, and I'll run the paper to the left. If you need to manipulate it, you just peel it off. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to take our straight edge, run it right up in there on the ceiling, and we're going to slice right through. Okay, and I'm just going to run this around a bit here to get rid of the bubbles in this area. Oh, now I can get off my ladder. So again, we're going to pull this paper loose, find our laser line, press it right to the line. Okay. All right. Now we're down near the bottom. Now in this particular project, I don't have any baseboards down here. If I did, I would just set this on there, run that down to the baseboard edge, okay? And then I would take the knife and I would cut it at the baseboard. But for here, I'm just gonna run it long on purpose, and I'm gonna install the baseboards afterwards. All right. Always smooth out all your bubbles. There we go. Now we're done with the laser. We won't need that again because we're just going to follow that line all around the room. The only other thing we need is a bit of a wet sponge, all right? And that's just to get rid of all of the adhesive on the edge. There we go. Okay, now, next row. We're going to do a few rows here, and I'm going to show you how to cut around the windows and how to match up your joints. Again, make sure there's plenty of adhesive on the wall where you're making your joint. That'll make your life a lot easier. If you go too dry when you put the paper on, it just clings to the wall and you can't slide it around at all. And without that ability to manipulate the edge, you're in a lot of trouble. There we go. All right. Last step, make sure we got lots of adhesive at the ceiling. Here we go. Now this is where it's fun, because you can actually pull left or right and get the roll lined up right on the edge. Okay, so if I pull left or I pull right, I manipulate where my roll is. The key is to finish at the top right where you want it. Okay, and you want to match up your reoccurring pattern. Now, here's the trouble with that. I'm going to demonstrate how difficult this can be. There's my pattern right there. All right. Now, with all this extra paper up here, no matter how much I press this on, while you're working and smoothing things out, it's going to have a tendency to want to just fall right off the wall. Of course, it's not doing it, but oh, it's starting to go now. So before you go, lift this up. The best plan is to find the recurring pattern, measure it off, and cut a little bit of excess. So it's a little bit easier to manage. There we go. Now we're coming back with this little tool. Okay. You want to get in behind and just line up the pattern nice and tight. Because we're not doing too much manipulation, we're not stretching the paper, we're just putting it right where it needs to go. There we go. That's a little bit loose. You can see I can just push it because I have lots of adhesive. Now, we're gonna just come across here now, nice and gentle like, working that paper in the right direction. If you start to develop any kind of a crease, we'll just lift it off. Okay, stretch it back out again. There we are. Work that into the ceiling. You can start to see that this can get moving pretty good if you get proficient. It really is one of those jobs you can do a whole room in just an afternoon, especially if you had a helper. Okay, again, we're just going to line up our design. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to talk about going around obstacles. Bum, bum, bum. First, again, the rule with obstacles is lots of adhesive. Having the ability to manipulate, to peel it off and put it back on again and still get adhesion is key. Don't worry about overlapping the glue on the old paper. We're going to be washing all of that off later. Okay. And we're going to get this all over the place here. All right, so this time we're going to identify our pattern. Reoccurring here, that's my line. There we go. You're not going to work out from here, you. There we go. Same thing, just going to pull this up and put our pattern in place first. We're going to rough to make this, okay? So here we go. I've got my pattern in place now. Now the trick here is you want to find that edge of your casing, all right? Now, okay, you want to get it to a point where you cut this back to where the joint is. There we are. Okay, we want to finish our whole seam first before we worry about all the details. But you want to just get that cut so that it's free to be applied properly. If I left it connected, I'm trying to do this joint down here, everything's going to start stretching on you. That's just going to make a huge mess. So last time, our primary goal was the ceiling, right? Get that joint cut before we move forward. Now, we just have to get everything in position so we can identify where our casings are. Okay. There we go. little bit of surgery, right? So I'm gonna work left to right all down this casing. Here we are. Now, I'm gonna take this here. Oh, you bad boy. There we are. Very nice. Now, just gonna get my line adjusted here a little bit. Perfect. Okay, back up to the top. There we are. Thing we have here is it is just a little bit dry at the top. There we go. Okay. All right, one good wash at the top there. Make sure the trim is clean. Make sure the joint is clean. Because it's all about the quality of the joint. All right, here we go. Nice. All right, so let's just go through this real quick. Lots of adhesive, use a laser line, be patient, make sure all the bubbles are gone before you walk on. And like anything in construction, if you're happy with what you've just done, then you can move on, but don't move on until you're happy. Now the tools for this project, I think altogether, $20. I mean, it's disposable stuff, not a big deal. $20 adhesive, $20 of tools, a couple $100 for wallpaper, and you've got a brand new room in just a few hours. So in this video, I'm going to show you all of my tips and tricks and my design elements for building a custom closet / dressing room like this one for less than $1,000. Stay with us. So one of the largest challenges we face when we're doing renovations is how to deal with closet areas. Because let's just face it, nowadays people tend to have a lot more clothes, shoes, and accessories than they used to in a long time ago. So homes just aren't built to handle all your stuff, which is why we took the 4th bedroom. We're turning this into a walk-in closet. Now, when you're getting ready to finish a closet, you've really got only 3 choices. You can just put up the basic melamine panels, a cross piece, bar, shelf, and that's simple. You have these metal racks that have a little coating on it. They snap together. They're a little bit pain in the butt because you have to put a ton of holes in your wall. And if you ever want to make any adjustments to the shelf, you also have to take the brackets out of the wall that are supporting the weight. And so you end up with a very restrictive system that doesn't really perform very well. It's full of holes, so everything's always falling through. And to be honest with you, the price point isn't all that attractive. The next step up, though, is you've got things like the Martha Stewart systems they sell at Home Depot. There's a variety of different companies. They've got these pre-assembled panel systems, and you just like a kit. You can buy a corner of this and this piece here, and you put it all together, you hang it off rails on the wall, and that seems to work. But the reality is you're getting, just for, let's say, 10 feet in length, you're already over $1,500 to buy those systems. They're really expensive, and they're just particle board. And then the next step up from there is you go and you get a carpenter in and you do something custom. And then it's like building a kitchen. And that can just be ridiculous. So most people can't afford the high end. And then the middle option is just so expensive for what you're getting as far as value is concerned. Today I'm showing you how to build my system, which is basically off-the-shelf products, very little cutting, but there's a few different improvements in the design and the products that we're using that make it functional, versatile, and cost-effective, right? So let's get into it. We're going to build a few different sections here today. At the end of the video, you can see the effect of the whole room. So the basic function is you need to have a gable on each side and then a rod. Now the rods that they sell in most situations in homes, new home construction, they're very thin. They go inside each other, kind of like a shower pole. What I like to do is I like to buy the step up. It's a heavier gauge steel. We'll show you that in a little bit. And then that can go across there without the need for middle supports. So you don't have to have all this bracket thing going on and it's confusing and ugly because it'll transfer all the load of all the clothes over 6 feet, no problem. So we're going to put in 2 gables. We're going to trim it out, add the shelf at the top, but we're also going to be building it in the box at the ceiling so we can crown this all in. So what we get is the effect of a beautiful finished custom made closet, but it's so quick and simple. You're going to love it. So let's get started. I'll show you the assembly and how easy it is. There we go. Now, step number 1. This is, and you know, don't take out your pencil and start taking notes, okay? We're stepping up our game on the channel. We're going to be putting the plans and designs and measurements on our website, okay? So you can go there and download the plan, and it's just going to be free of charge, but we want to make this information available to you. We're going to do a few different design styles and sizes, put in the measurements there for you to help make things easier, but you are basically going to be customizing this to where you live. So we have 8-foot panels that come from our store. They're 16 inches wide, and we just cut it to fit to the ceiling, and we just slide it into the back. All right. Now, that is simple. Now you'll also notice that the walls around here are covered in wallpaper, and if you want to see how we do the wallpaper, it's so simple. This is one way to increase the design factor of any room, and if you want to do this, we'll put a link right here for you as a card to the wallpaper video. This step is brilliant. It's so easy to do nowadays. It's not like wallpaper days of old where everything was just gooey and sticky and falling all over you. So we're going to take our pin nailer now. We're going to throw a few shots into the corner because we know that when you build a house, there's a piece of wood there. Now that's not going to go anywhere. Step 1's done. I love it. Step number 2. They also sell at the same store the same width of material in a 6-foot panel, okay? Now, this might look like it's a waste of material to double up like this, but what this does do is this gives me a beautiful design to the ceiling for the inside corner, and this gives me structural load for the shelf. So we're gonna, again, throw pins in the back corner. All right. And I'm just going to demonstrate this real quick. All right, because we're going to screw this together. These are all products we found at the local building store. So we get these 1 and then, I think they're 1 1/8. 1 1/8 wood screw, okay? And with this, I can screw these panels together. And then this is a little cap. Now when you go down to the hardware aisle, they're going to have a wall of little plastic boxes and trays, and you can get these caps. And this is a number 2, and it actually fits inside the head of the screw, and it covers up the screw. And that's one way you can attach all these boards together, and you won't have to do any finishing and touch up and putty and paint work later. The next step is, for this section of the closet, is to build this side. It's going to be very similar. We're going to have one panel that goes to the ceiling, one panel that comes from the store at the same height. All right. If your room is level and relatively flat, that makes all the math really simple. So we're just going to screw those together, get that in place. And that's my right side panel here. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the things you're going to need to do in these situations, because you're going to the middle of a wall, there's nothing to nail the board to. You have to create a nailing strip. So what we do is we cut this down a little bit, because we're also going to put one of these 1x2s that come from the store, okay? And we're going to go across the back of the wall, and it'll sit on top of this as well, and that'll be a back wall support for the shelf. All right, so what I'm going to just pin nail all this together here. real quick. Okay. Now we're going to take this panel and we're going to line this up over here. Now, one of the things you're going to want to have in this situation is a laser, because nothing in your room is going to be level. So you want to have a line that you can follow. So because my second panel is going to go all the way to the ceiling, I want to come just off the edge of that vent. So I'm going to design this for simplicity. I like that. So I'm going to put this one up against the laser line. Okay, and then I'll nail my support bracket to the wall. I'm going to just manipulate and fire this into the wall. There we go. Okay. All right, beautiful. Okay, one of the best things about this system is that we don't have to worry about the structural integrity and squaring it off as we go. Because when we put the shelf on, it'll self-square everything. We're just going to measure from the back point to the back point because they're fixed. And then the fronts will just square themselves off. Here we go. That's a perfect 55 inches. All right, so I'm just going to run downstairs, draw a line on my shelf, cut it with this, my skill saw. Be back up here in no time. We'll stick the shelf on. 155-inch shelf. That was simple. Now, the only thing we want to do here, you also want to tack all this together. That'll give you your structural integrity, right? Okay. That'll keep everything from moving around. Perfect. Piece of cake. So my next part of my system here is I'm going to put a piece of 1x5 MDF and cap the surface. One of the things we're doing here is we're actually going to cap all of the surfaces. So we're going to cap this joint, we're going to cap across the shelf, down the side and across the top. This gives us a really nice finished look. It also allows us to attach the crown molding afterwards we're all done to dress it all up. 55. There. So the key here is to start on the outside corner. Everything is nice and flexible. So we're going to nail this on here. And that's what's going to hold our crown molding. Okay. Now that we have that done, we're ready to put the faces on. And that's what this is for, right? I mean, this just cleans everything up really nicely. We also bring one across this area here. That gets rid of the warp in the shelf because it has structural integrity added by this piece. And we close up the gaps along the outside with this one here. Nice. We'll also put one across the back to give some more support for the shelf. And then add baseboard. And this one's finished. So what I do is I just take a piece of scrap. I'm gonna get my cutlass, do it all at once, and then come back. All right, 90 3/4, 90 7/8. 53. Okay, so we're just gonna go flush with the outside and then throw in some more pins. Always go straight and square. You're nailing through the finished edge of these melamine cabinets, I guess is what you'd call it. And if you go on an angle, they'll just deflect off of that trim. So always go square and avoid that mistake. Okay, now this system is great for closets, but in a few minutes we're going to show you also how to build adjustable shelving units, shoe racks, and cubby storage. We're going to do a whole wall in this room, and that system, when you combine it all together, this technology, is a really simple way for just about anybody to make their own built-ins anywhere in the whole house. Fire a nail there so that this is useful. I'm going to use my stud finder. Basically all we do is you press the button on once you're flat on the wall. And when you see the green light, you just start traveling to the left. And there's a stud. Okay, and then we'll confirm from that coming the other direction. There you go. And right in the middle, you're guaranteed to have wood. And we'll lift the shelf to carry the load. I'm comfortable with that. We'll do it again over here somewhere. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay. If you want it to carry a lot of weight, you throw 3 nails in there. I'm telling you right now, 3 brad nails will carry over 100 pounds each. So that's a 200-pound carry load right there. Plus both gables. And then when we're all done, because next we're going to build this side, because this is an inside corner system. We're going to build this side, and then we're going to connect the shelves together. Okay, we'll show you how to do that as well. We'll finish trimming it up. Boom. We'll have to install the rods. We'll have a finished closet in about another 10 minutes. So in this situation, we're coming around the corner, right up to the edge of a cabinet. Now what we're going to do is resist the temptation to attach the gables to the cabinet. This can be temporary. What we're doing here is we're attaching something to the wall, so it's permanent. We don't want to attach them together. Now just also note, in the floor here, we have our area vent heat grate system. And we installed this, I think we showed how to install this in the engineered flooring video. So this is an engineered hardwood. If you want to see that video, just click the link right here. Because between the hardwood, the wallpaper, and these custom cabinets, that's basically all there is to making this beautiful, well, aside from the amazing pot lights we got, but that's about all you need to know to do something like this at home. Beautiful. We actually moved that vent because it was under the window, and so the dresser was in the way. So we moved it with the design in mind to keep that, available to heat the room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this panel that I have my 1x2 attached to now, and I'm going to get the floor to ceiling panel. I'm just going to put them all in position, screw the 2 main panels together, nail this one into the wall. Bam, we've got an end gable and it's fixed in place. So there's panel number 1, floor to ceiling, right? And again, we're not concerned about how tight it is at the ceiling because we're going to be adding caulking and paint and crown. There's panel number 2, okay? So what I want to do here is first I want to get this fixed in place about where this cabinet is, because I know when I'm compressed this way, I can find my level from there. That's funny because this is a brand new house, and the outside of the room versus 16 inches in it's over a 1/4 inch gap, right? It's amazing. So in order for me to build this properly, I have to shim the bottom of these, or I have to scribe the bottom of these and cut them. Either way works fine, but since we're going to be using the 1x2 going right to the floor, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to go make a quick shim for myself out of some leftover material. Stick that underneath for now for load transfer. And once I've got that in place, then I'll keep going on. Okay, I just found another useful use for a carpenter pencil. I shoved the whole thing in that gap that's my shim. Oh well, I have other pencils. Problem solved, time to move on. I want to keep building. Anyway, I'm going to just keep on tacking here. I want to have stability left to right, so I'm going to get my laser level, throw a line, tackle this together. All right, so now the key here is to understand that we're going to need some gable support here, and then a shelf to go from this side and then tie right into the other shelf. And I bought a couple of mending plates for that. Here they are. All right, so you go to the local store and you can buy these mending plates, and the top of the hole here is actually beveled out so that the screw sits right flush in there. So we're using 5/8 screws. After the thickness of the metal, they won't penetrate the bottom side of the shelf, okay? So you can stick these on and tie everything nice and tight together. It also transfers weight from one panel to the next, which is brilliant. So what we have to do now is we have to decide where to put this end gable, okay? Because this is a close rod. Now traditionally, although we're using 16-inch panels, a close rod comes about 12 inches off the wall, all right? So if you're not sure what to do at your house, just grab a hanger. It'll help you organize this. Now, if you put this hanger tight against the wall, that means every time you hang something up, you're banging against the wall. You're going to cause damage. You want to cut a couple inches out. That gives you the ability to hang just about anything, including coats, and you're going to have lots of room. So if that's the center there, then from the wall, I'm looking at almost 12 inches, okay? So you can always give yourself lots of room. If you're going to be carrying coats, go to 12 inches. Nothing wrong with that, all right? That's your center. Now, if the center is at 12, that means you actually want to give yourself almost 24 inches of actual space. So, when we're bringing our gable for here, we don't want to just put it up against here, because that makes this part of the closet useless, right? So what we want to do is we want to measure and install our shelf and our gable at the same time. We want to cut the gable so that we can put it in a position where we want it to carry the weight while we put this in and attach our mending plates. It's a little tricky, but we'll get there. But the point is we want this gable here 24 inches off the wall. Okay? Make sense? So the gable again is going to be a standard stock item from the store, the same as the other two. And this one, all right? So that means we don't have to measure the height. We'll stick it in place and get on with our life. And that'll be good. So all we need now is to measure our shelf. All right, and this shelf here is going to be 49 and a hair, and it should be the same here. Yes. All right, so I'm gonna go cut a shelf that's 49 and a hair, and I'm gonna cut out this back corner to sit around this edge here. Come up tight to here, use the mending plates, throw a couple of nails in. Again, we're gonna put a crossbar in here to carry some weight. We're gonna throw in this panel here. We're almost done. All right, so I've got my shelf, I've got my support board, and I've got my little 1x2 because we're gonna have to nail the back again to keep it straight. Just a quick note, you'll see while we're working here, there's a lot of these black marks. When you go to buy your product, don't be concerned about it. It really is just shipping dirt and wear and tear. It'll all wipe up when you're done. Don't even bother trying to clean it before you start. Just wait till you're all finished, give it a good wipe. It'll all look brand new then. So let's stick this all in place now. Here we go. Now we'll start here. Come down into position. Here we go. Give this roughly where we want it. Now we want to get this, you said 24, right? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up putting this gable just off that line of the wallpaper there. That'll be nice. Okay. We need to get that nailed together. Okay. Just a quick tip. When you're nailing things into just drywall and it's giving you a little bit of resistance, if you put one nail on an angle up and one nail on an angle down, that actually will hold the drywall, okay, and keep it in position for you. And that is a great way to solve that problem. So what I'm doing is I'm basically screwing the left side of the mending plate to one panel, and then when I attach the screws to the other side, it'll pull it tight into position. I'll show you that in just a second here. Now, mending plates are really popular in office furniture. All right. Which is actually where I first ever used them. Man, I must have been 22 years old. I was working for an office furniture installation company. You know, one of those firms, they go in there and they'll set up 100 or 200 offices on the floor in a couple of days. Just ridiculous. But I learned some handy tricks. There we go. Now here we are, right? Couple brackets, couple of screws. You got a nice transition. Bam. So we're going to recap because now we have the basics of our shelving system. We're also going to take our piece of 1x5 from the face here, bring it across and measure out to the depth of this corner. Okay, and we'll attach it in the corner. That way our crown can be continuous, all right? And then it's just a matter of getting our 1x2 floor to ceiling here and then trimming out the fronts of the rest of this. This bad boy's done. From the face of that to the other side of this. That's a 39, that's an 8, 37, 1/16. All right, here we are. That's there, and there. How I like to do my shelves is I'll do both ends flush, and then I'll go to the middle and I'll manipulate whatever is left, and then work another way out. That makes that pretty solid. That's awesome. Okay, now I have to put this piece in so I can measure that. The other detail here that's going to be interesting is we want to do something in this corner to dress it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the 1x2 and I'm going to just go from the top of the cabinet up to the bottom here, and I'm going to put an inside corner on just to help dress that up and make it look intentional. That's really nice. And in a lot of cases, if you're going more than 3 or 4 feet, then you want to put a center panel in as additional support. And you can take a look at the other end of the room. You'll notice that we did a center support wall. It was 2 panels that were at the 6 feet, and then we added the 1x2 floor to ceiling on it, and that offered great structural support so we could put multiple rods in. Also, it's a great clean look, balances out, nice symmetry. Beautiful. Now in this situation here, you'll see that the flooring comes pretty short of the baseboard. So what I did is I'm actually going to be adding a piece of shoe mold, okay? And so then I can dress that up and close those gaps. If you're in a house and your baseboard is too thin to cover, don't be surprised. In most construction, the baseboards are thin and they take quarter round or shoe mold to add additional depth to cover all the edges of the flooring. Okay, so the rod systems come with this awesome heavy-duty hardware, and they have one thing in common. There's a some location on the bottom of each of these pieces, okay? And so what I like to do is I set it up at 5.5 inches from the shelf and 11.5 inches in. Sorry, 5.25 down, 11.5 inches in. I'll make my mark and pre-drill the hole just a little bit because the screws that we use to mount these, they have a hard time with the melamine. So if you pre-drill it, it really helps a lot. Here we go. So we're gonna put that, pre-drill this hole just enough so that the screw can catch the melamine. All right, there we go. And then we're gonna just pre-drill the hardware, the center of those holes as well. Now, the 2 ends are different. One receives a rod, the other one the rod sits on, and all the screw locations are in different spots. So make sure when you do this, you don't pre-drill a bunch of holes that you aren't going to use. Just mark the ones, set the bottom up. 1, 2, and 3. There we go, beautiful. Screws come in the bag. They are Phillips. We all know how I feel about Phillips screws. All right, and because your hole is pre-drilled, this just pops in real easy. Okay, and there's my heavy steel bar, right? And it's cut. So take the cut end and insert it in the extended bracket area there. There we go. And it just drops in place. Whew. Sexy, beautiful. And we're just gonna finish off all of our decorations now, right? Again, we're just gonna make it nice and flush here. And then we'll do the other side. Always shooting square. Perfect. All right, and then we're gonna set these up in here, nice and snug. So for finishing this off, we're just gonna tack the corner on an angle because this is all MDF and it won't fire out the nail the other side. There we go. The only thing left as part of the closet is to put a rod here and a rod down here. Now this is tall enough at 6 feet and change. You can do 2 rods for separates. You know, that's basically means you can hang your shirts above and pants underneath or whatever. Over here we have room for lots of full length activity, and they're going to be putting their luggage in behind the back corner as well. So that's awesome. Okay, so we got lots of hanging closet now. Before we get into doing crown molding though, we want to finish off the adjustable shelving unit. So we're going to rearrange the lights and camera action here. We're going to start building the other units on the other wall. So now we're at a point where we're going to build a different kind of system. This is just an adjustable wall shelf unit. And the same kind of principle applies here, only this time we're using a 12-inch deep pre-drilled hole wall board as the gables. We're still going to put the 1x5 across the top, but we're also going to build the lower shelf with a 1x6 across the bottom. That allows us to continue the baseboard trim all around the entire room. It gives a really nice look that complements the crown. So what we're going to end up with is a baseboard into the 1x6, right into the shelf that's going to be fixed in place. And every unit we build will have the same shelf, the same height, fixed in place. So we have the face of the 1x6, the face of the 1x5. And you guessed it, when you build a bunch of these units, you stack them together and you put the 1x2 on the front, bam, you have exactly the same symmetry and look. And that system can be duplicated over and over and over again. And you can build whatever you want inside of the confines of that, because as long as you use the same width gable, you can do whatever you want in each unit and then trim the face to close it all up and cover it up and make it look pretty. That's why the system works so well. Now what we're going to do is we have a 90, almost 6-inch ceiling, so we're going to just cut all of them off at 95. Because we're doing the 1x6, we're also going to put a shelf at the very top underneath that 1x5, okay? That'll give it a nice close that off. We won't see the edge of the ceiling and the ugly wallpaper mistake I made up there. But what it does is it contains everything, defines everything, makes it a really nice look, quality space, and it keeps everything rigid too. So each one of these units is going to have a lower, middle, and a top shelf that's fixed, and other shelves will be adjustable. That functions really nice. And it also makes everything nice and sturdy. So when we go to install it, it'll be rock solid. So we're gonna just put together a couple units real quick, and then we're gonna install all of our crown. So we're gonna show you how to make the assembly. If you have a nice flat surface, you can assemble these really quick with an air nailer and a finish square. We're gonna show you that trick so you can get that done. And then as far as the crown molding is concerned, if you'd like to see how to put crown molding up. So we're using kind of like a styrofoam crown molding with a plaster face on it. It's an awesome product. We're going to put a link in the description below so that you can take a look at that source online. But we'll also put the card up here so that you can click and watch that video, because there's a really simple way to install crown molding, and all that information is in the video, so I'll just go let you check it out. You can actually click it and it'll open the page. You can pause the video. You can watch that when this one's done. All right, so I'm going to go and make all my cuts, and I'm going to come up here and talk you through the process, because it is just that simple. We'll whip this together in no time. Now, one word of caution here, a little bit of a tip for you. These boards here that come pre-drilled, let me show you. They only have finished one edge, okay? Now, they come from the factory 97 inches, even though they say 96. The point of that is they're designed so that no matter which end you measure from, the first hole is in exactly the same location, so that you can take the board here with the white facing you, and the holes will line up with the board here with the white facing you, with the pre-drilled holes facing each other. They'll all be in line. If you have them all stacked like this and cut all the tops off, you're going to have to invert, and you'll end up with them upside down and your holes will be out of alignment. So take extra caution, think through your process, make sure you're not messing that up. What I do is I stack them, all the finished edges facing me, holes up, holes down, holes up, holes down, and then I make my cuts. That way I'm confident I'm always cutting the top off and not causing myself an issue. First of all, we're going to remember that we're going to put a shelf at the bottom, one in the middle, and we'll identify that in a minute, and one at the top. But the bottom and the top are simple. So we're going to just put B for bottom on these, okay? So we don't get confused as we go along. T for top, that'll get covered. Now from the ground, we're adding a 1x6, and those are 5.5 inches. And you can make marks with pencil all day long on melamine because it'll always wash off, so don't be afraid of doing that. The idea here is we want to have all of these boards standing up on end, okay? And then we're going to nail it all together. Seems a little precarious, and at times it is. There we go. Okay, bam. Okay, so this mark is at exactly 5.5 inches. Now I know the 1x6 is exactly 5.5 inches. So I'm going to install my shelf just 1/8 longer than that, okay? And I'm going to come bring it up flush and throw one nail in it real quick just to get this started. There, okay? Now I'm going to come over here and mark my 5.5 inches plus the hair, all right? And I'm going to get this nail in just so that things aren't falling all over the place. Now here's a teachable moment for us. I was too close to the edge and I didn't make sure I was on at 90 degrees. So my nail came through. Now I got two options. I can try to pull the nail out, it's going to destroy the whole thing, or I can just snip it off, not worry about it. Remember, everything here is getting that 1x6 face, so it's not going to be a problem. Now, what we want to do now is we want to install this shelf perfectly square. So we can set the square on here and just come over and manipulate the location of that. And that's brilliant, eh? The other thing you can do is you can take it to the other side, all right? And you can use it to trace a line. So when you're shooting your nails in, you know where the top of that shelf is. Okay?
That's brilliant.
Here we go. Makes this nice and simple. And you can push this under pressure a little bit, and then even with your knee, push back the other way. Make sure that it's nice and square. There we go. We'll do the same thing with the other side. Beautiful. Now, we're going to do the same thing at the other end. Knowing that we're putting in a 1x5, we'll set the height of that shelf as well. Here we go with our shelf. Again, 1x5 is 4.5 inches. Now remember, we cut these at 95. They're going to be short of the ceiling. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a piece of 1x5 coming across the top so that we can put our crown molding on it. This shelf doesn't need to come flush to it. So we're going to intentionally install it closer to the top, just so that it becomes a visibly finished space, okay? So we're going to assume that we're 1 inch from the ceiling. And we're going to go to 4 inches after that. So I'm actually going to mark it at 3, all right? And you'll see the effect when we're all done. This is going to work out really nice. If my 1x5 at the top comes to this point, when you're on the ground looking up, it looks very finished. And you don't have to worry about being precise. Because when you're working like this for yourself, the last thing you want is create so much math because you'll never get anything done. You'll be forever scribing. So that's why using the crown helps, because crown solves all your problems with all your math. All you have to do is measure from the ground up every single time, and it'll be perfect every time. Trace my line. Trace my line. Okay. Okay, so the middle shelf, we want to have that consistent on every unit that I build here, and I'm building 4. So we only want to get this one measurement one time. So I have a unit like this that's getting a bottom and a top. The next unit to the side of it is actually designed to be in 13-inch cubby holes. Okay, so we're 13 inches up and across. Because in this particular case, they're using the fabric boxes from IKEA to use like drawers. Not all of them, but some of them. So we're going to make it very consistent. So we're going to measure the total here, and that is just under 87. Okay, and we're going to go 13, 6, 78. 78 off 87 leaves me 9, but I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves to do that. And that's 5 at 5/8, 25/8, that's 3 inches and change. That leaves me an extra 3 inches. Okay, so what I've got an idea of having a 13-inch space. So I worked 13 into my total measurement. It gives me 6 spaces, all right? So if I'm doing 6 spaces, that gives me 5 more shelves. So 5 shelves at that thickness is another 3 inches, give or take. The idea is I still have an extra 3 inches to go, 4 inches to go. So I'm going to go 13.5 on the height, okay? And then we'll do that way. So let's do the math that way. We'll go 13.5 on the height plus 5/8. We're looking for the middle. So we're going to put in 5 more shelves. 1, 3, 13.5. So I need 13.5 times 3 is 39, 40 and a half. Bam, there we go. Okay, so I'm measuring 40.5. There we go. Plus my 5/8. And that's gonna be my fixed shelf. It's gonna be the same height, okay? Every unit that I make. The rest of the shelves are adjustable, so you can have some fun with it. But having this fixed shelf the same height everywhere, it's very important, and it'll look a lot nicer if it's the same. So I use the square. I hold it against the panel, I push with my knee. I've already traced my line, so I know exactly where that panel is. And I shoot in square. So just a quick recap. The reason we have a fixed shelf, top, middle, and bottom, is because we have wallpaper on the backing. We're not throwing L brackets on, we're not attaching this to the wall with a bunch of fancy hardware. We're simply creating this box to hold its own structure, because the rest of it's adjustable shelves. We can't have the middle as bowing all over the place. And it's really difficult to put these things, lift them into place without wrecking them if you don't have the middle stability. All right, note, one of the reasons why we cut these panels a lot shorter than the ceiling, so you can lift them in place. Remember, 96 inches is 96 inches if you have something thin, but if you make something thick, you gotta take some depth off there so you can roll this into position. And here I am, I'm still having problems. Unbelievable. It's not the end of the world, there's a quick, easy fix for this, but I need you to bring me up my skill saw. All right? What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna take off a little bit of a triangle off the back corner, right across the bottom and the back so I have room to rock it in place. All right? Instead of messing with the top. So two things there. One, I don't mind making mistakes and showing it on camera because you're gonna run into things like this. And knowing how to fix it is probably the most important issue. Number two, when we're doing our math on our shelves, I'm trying to get close without getting really too detailed. I don't want to get into nanometers. I'm trying to keep it simple. Remember, if the last shelf is a little bit longer, right? When you look up at it, it's automatically looking smaller anyway. So if it's got a little extra gap up there, visually it comes across as being perfect. So not a worry. Now all we got to do here, just take our square, and I'm feeling like an idiot. Okay, we're just going to take off the last little bit. It's of no value to us. This is just a great life lesson. So whenever you're doing carpentry and you've got something of substance and you're putting it up against the ceiling, this is a quick, easy fix. Be gentle with this, okay? Because it's not built to be the most durable thing in the world until it's installed. Let me just show the camera. So what I'm doing is I'm sliding my square around until my angle is lower than the shelf. Now I'm safe to cut. And one more time, Maddie. Okay, we're gonna see how easy this works this time. It's probably better if I just manage it myself. Yeah. Okay. Oh, come on. All right. Sometimes it is the simple things that drive you nuts, right?
Now, if this doesn't work, we gotta go back to Home Depot. Right?
Actually, if this doesn't work, I have to cut down the top of it. But this is gonna work. I have faith. Oh, ho, ho. What the hell? Wait a minute. It's not about that. Oh, I cut the cabinets at 95. It's 95 and a quarter. I didn't give myself enough room. Obviously it's getting late in the day. I assumed that the ceiling was 96, but I forgot, man. We put in 3/4 inch hardwood. So now should have just used a measuring tape. All right, so I'm just gonna take a little bit extra off the top. Everything above that fixed shelf is actually just wasted space anyway. So third time's the charm.
Talk about custom cabinet.
Custom built, baby.
You want to measure it before we cut?
No. All right. That just makes more sense, doesn't it? Okay, now that we have one in place, really the secret here is not that tricky. We want to just measure to the existing height of the shelf, height of that shelf, and height of that shelf. Translate that information on the next board, nail those 3 shelves in, and then keep on attaching and attaching and attaching. Okay, so the only thing that we're missing here is getting this cabinet installed vertically and plumb. So what we're gonna do, Matt's gonna cut me a couple of pieces that are 18.5. The 1x2, we're gonna install it as a nailing surface underneath the shelf here and underneath the shelf at the top. We're gonna throw a laser level on, get this perfectly in line, and put our piece of 1x2 on the side here. Just a couple more details, and then you'll be able to make miles and miles of this cabinetry. Okay, 92.5. we go. Now it's the same process, right? So we're building our own component system based on this piece being attached to the wall and plumb and having our finished trim on. So we have to take a step forward before we can go backwards again. What I've done is I've cut my 1x6. I'm just laying it up against the shelf. You can see how it's going to finish up. Put a mark up here. That is where my 1x5 is going to finish. And now I want to get the actual measurement for my 1x2 because we're going to do over the face. Looks like, Maddie, this is going to be pretty much perfect. We're going to go 85 and a half shy, okay? All right. Now that might sound unfamiliar, but when we're working and we're taking a measurement, if my measurement is just a little bit less than 85, I don't want to say 84 and 7/16. When you're on the saw, if I make a measurement, I say, give me something 84 or 85 shy. You line up 85 and you just, what you do, let me just give you a little example here. While we're talking 85, I'm going to extend my whole tape. Why not? So if I'm making a mark at 85, okay, usually I'll make a mark at the point and the thickness of the blade. So the saw guy knows to cut that pencil out. If I say 85 shy, when he's making his mark, he'll just go a little bit left of the mark and he'll still take the pencil out. That's just a really effective way to communicate 1x2, and I don't remember the number anymore, so I'm gonna, was it 85 and a half? Yeah. You write that down? Yep. $50. Oh, you got your money back. Wow. Oh, I'm a nice guy. All right. All right, so what we're gonna do over here is we're just gonna guesstimate. We're gonna set this up for the client, okay? And we're gonna put in enough of these little pegs. My goodness, that is not as easy as you'd think when you're holding a whole handful of the darn things. And we're gonna just toss these in at roughly whatever 1 foot is, okay? And then we'll go up to roughly wherever the 2 feet mark is, and so on and so forth. And we'll establish more shelves than you'll need. End of the day, no one's gonna need more shelves than every foot. I think in most situations that is more than sufficient. And you can buy these pegs in bulk. And so I bought a bag of 100. That's more than enough to do a few shelves here. Take care of this. And when I say more than enough, I think I'm gonna have 4 left over. Anyway, here we go. And when you go to cut your shelves, remember your spaces, you wanna take a healthy 1/8 of an inch off of that. Just so that there's room to drop them all in place and they're not gonna be sitting there fighting with you. So what I did here is I just took my laser and I just checked the wall itself to make sure it was relatively level. Plumb, sorry, for everybody out there who doesn't like my slang. What I'm gonna do, because I don't need to follow the contour and scribe, I'm simply gonna install this trim board on the shelves. Well, like maybe a 1/16 or a 32nd of an inch overlap, just to get rid of this line. If I go perfectly flush, it's ugly. As soon as I go bam, it's actually pretty. Okay, and I'm nailing, set a square, both 2 degrees, so the nail's passing through the front on the way in, just to make sure that I'm not gonna have an issue. When you're putting on your finished trims, it's the wrong time to have a nail fire out on you. All right, okay, now, I'm gonna slide the cabinet against the wall, and we're gonna take our level and double check. And this is the best thing about a level. You don't have to be straight off the wall. You can just take it and direct it up against the back. And we are really close here. I don't think I can make that any more level if I wanted to. I actually really like where it's sitting. All right, so before we do anything else, we're gonna fire a couple of nails in, just so it doesn't move around on us. We're gonna grab our sub finder and we're gonna find out where the wood is. It could be just about anywhere. Interior walls can be really confusing because you don't know if they started from the left or the right due to their 16s on center. We found it. So that'll take care of that. And it should be about the same spot up here. And it is. Okay, now that's all in the stud. Now it's plumb, it's flush, it's pretty. We can just keep stacking these together now. So when it comes to symmetry, if I'm using nailing blocks, you have to put them everywhere. Even if you're not using it as a nailing block, you want to have that line of sight, that visual, very consistent. Okay, here we go. And that's how we attach that cabinet. So now we're going to attach the cabinet to the cabinet. We don't want to be too far front here, but we want to be somewhere inconspicuous. We're going to go just under the shelf. Make sure the fronts are both flush. There we go. Now that's sunk nice and flush. And we're going to grab our white plastic cap, number 2 size from that little bin in the screw drawer, and we're going to kick that on to cover it. Done. We're going to just do top, middle, bottom, and then we're done. Off to the next cabinet. We're expecting these shelves to be at 13 inches on this cabinet, right? So I'm going to throw my screw in just around 12. I'm anticipating that is going to be very invisible when it's all done. Okay. I'm going to put this one towards the back so no one will ever see it. Best thing about the screws, when you sink it flush, there's still, I don't know, 3/16 left. It doesn't ever poke out the other side. So you don't have to worry about that kind of damage. The head of the screw is usually its own stopper, so it's hard to drive it too deep unless you're really trying. Cabinet after cabinet after cabinet. But before we do, remember, our system is simple. Now I have this 2 panels together. I'm going to take another piece of 1x2. I'm going to laminate that middle. We're going to put the 1x5 across the top. And then we're ready to do all the crown work. The only thing that's left is to take out some 45-minute drywall compound, the quick set, make up a little bit of a paste, thumbnail all of the little pinholes, because that's the perfect way to finish that off. That'll dry without shrinking, and then you can give it one more quick paint after you've done all your caulking work. All right, well, the only thing left to do, I guess, is let's do the reveal of the final project and enjoy this. When we're done, we'll talk about the cost to build all of this system in the whole room. As you can see, this closet is a great example of what it takes. It's just a few simple tools and a little bit of understanding of how to put some things together. Anybody can build their own custom closet for less than $1,000. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Listen, if you like this, then give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. We have tons of projects on the way coming in new videos for you so you can learn how to master the world of DIY for your home. Not a tricky project at all. Most homeowners can do it with just a handful of tools. This is the kind of thing that we like to promote here on our channel. So consider following us for the ride, all right? And if you're getting into major renovations and you feel a little bit lost or over your head, take a look at joining our membership program, because we have a forum and you can send me pictures and ask questions and I can answer them myself to give you a hand, all right? And if you enjoy learning how to do DIY projects in your house, then you got to check out what we did in the master bedroom right behind the closet here. We did a feature wall. I set it up so that it's skilled carpentry and paintwork, but I have a system that I can teach you in that video. You can do it yourself, again, with just very basic, simple tools. Go ahead and check that out. You're going to love this accent wall made to look like an old Victorian library.